So if my introduction isn't compelling enough, Governor LePage's attack should tell you just how afraid Republicans are of our democratic ideas, and proof, as shown by Governor O'Malley's record, that they work. And on a personal note, I first met Governor O'Malley last fall, and I'm very thrilled to welcome him as our guest to the state of Maine. Governor O'Malley is leading a national group called the New Deal Leaders in partnership with Alaska Senator Mark Begich. And you can clap for them, they're really great. This group of New Deal leaders is a group of pro-growth, progressive, elected Democratic leaders from around this country. The group is designed to share ideas on how to build our economy and stay true to our progressive values at the same time. I am proud to be a member of the New Deal leaders and to follow the example of Governor O'Malley in my own work here in Maine. Governor O'Malley is the real deal. And he is an inspiration to all of us in this room to stand by the courage of our convictions and fight fearlessly for our values and for those that we serve every day. Please join me in welcoming Maryland's Governor, Governor Martin O'Malley.
My goodness, are you fired up, Maine? It is great. You want your governor's office back. I don't blame you. My goodness. I received a little greeting card from your governor on my way into the state. And in the words of former President Kennedy, I'm glad to be distinguished by the company of my opponents. I want to thank you, Democratic leader Emily Kane, who is a leader in the of the New Deal, as you mentioned, with Mark Begich, a great network of people who, as you can tell from Emily's kind introduction and her passion, these are all Democrats who believe that we should actually make our government work. It should perform. We should get results. It's also great to meet Justin Alfond, Senator. Good to see you. I want to thank Chair Ben Grant for all of his work in pulling this party together. Mr. Chairman, I've visited a few state parties. I've never visited one whose program was actually running ahead of schedule rather than... There is a first time for everything, isn't there? Executive Director Mary Aaron Casal and everyone with the Maine Democratic Party, I bring you greetings from your friends in Maryland. And the people of our two states really do have a great deal in common. Maine is home to America's best lobsters. Maryland is home to America's best blue crabs. Maine gave birth to Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Maryland gave birth to Francis Scott Key. And a Mainer named Stephen King writes fiction in scary, frightening, fictitious places like Castle Rock, while Tea Party Republicans such as Congressman Steve King write their own fiction in a scary, frightening place next to Maryland called the Republican-controlled House of Representatives. But in all seriousness, both of our states really are beautiful places, home to sweeping coastlines, stunning woodlands, and majestic mountains. And Mainers and Marylanders are strong, revolutionary people with a legacy of always summoning up the courage and the consensus that it takes to move forward, especially in times of national adversity. In 2008, both of our states made history by choosing to move America forward with President Barack Obama. your help, together, we're going to choose to move forward again by re-electing Barack Obama. I also believe that with your help, in November 2012, both Maine and Maryland will pass marriage equality referenda to protect religious freedom and human dignity under the law. I also believe that your state, after experiencing the backward movement that Governor LePage has taken you on, I believe that you can win back your governor's office, and the Democratic governors of America want to see you do that in a non-so-distant. So look, I know the day has been long, even though you're running ahead of schedule, but I wanted in our short time tonight to speak with you about the challenges that you and I, led by our courageous president, have agreed to take on for our country, especially in these times. Secondly, I'd like to speak with you about the two competing, really starkly different visions that are struggling right now for our country's future. And finally, I'd like to suggest to you how we win in this important electoral contest, this important choice that is coming upon us in November. 4 years ago, Maine and Maryland resolved with our neighbors to move our country forward out of 8 disastrous years of the presidency of George W. Bush. Forward out of 8 years where we traded record surpluses for record debt. Forward out of 8 years of the 1%, by the 1%, for the 1%. Forward out of 8 years of declining opportunity, of shrinking or stagnating wages that ended with the worst job losses since the Great Depression. Those are the facts. And you know what? The truth can darn well defend herself, but she needs to be stated. So no president since Franklin Delano Roosevelt inherited a worse economy, bigger job losses, as many wars, or as large a deficit as our president inherited from his predecessor, George W. Bush. So Maine, and this is the first audience participation part of the program here. Let us resolve tonight that for the rest of the next 7 months, we never ever say the word recession, or deficits, or job losses without preceding them with the proper pronoun of Bush. Are you with me? So let's repeat after me, if you would, as we pin the tail on the elephant. Bush recession. Bush deficits. Bush job losses. Now turn to your neighbor and say, didn't that feel good? And so friends, when we hear people like Governor LePage and Mitt Romney say that they want to take America back, we might well ask them, back to what? Back to what? Back to the 1950s? Back to the days of George W. Bush and all those job losses? I don't want to go back to those days, do you? Nostalgia's not what it used to be. I suppose in their minds, nothing says job creation quite like removing paintings of working Americans from your state department. In Maine, you have a great tradition of really sailing forward, even through challenging waters. It's part of who you are. Retreating back is not in your blood. It's not the Maine way, it's not the Maryland way, and it's not the way that America was built. We have a leader in President Barack Obama who is making the right choices, though often the tough and oftentimes unpopular choices, to lead us forward again as a country. And on that road to recovery, make no mistake about it, there will be ups and downs. There will be good months and bad months, but only one clear direction, and that direction is forward. That direction is forward. 27 months in a row now of consecutive positive job growth. President Obama is moving America forward, not back. With more jobs created last year than in all 8 years of the presidency of George W. Bush, President Barack Obama, sing it with me, is moving America forward, not back. By driving home foreclosures down to their lowest levels, actually a lower level than it was before he took office, Barack Obama is moving America forward, not back. By driving unemployment down to levels we have not seen for 3 long, hard years, Barack Obama is moving America forward, not back. Yes, the facts are stubborn, but sometimes hopeful things, aren't they? Job creation is up. Unemployment has been driven down to the lowest levels in 3 years, and while we still have a lot of work to do, because of President Obama's leadership, General Motors is alive and hiring, and Osama bin Laden is not. Now look, we still have a lot of work to do. I understand there's 50,000 people still searching for work in Maine. Could our nation's jobs recovery be happening faster? You bet. Sure it could. But that would require compromise, pragmatism, and a focus on the common good. 3 concepts that the Tea Party Republicans in the United States House of Representatives are totally incapable of grasping. We have a job creation president and a constipation Congress. These Republican obstructionists wouldn't pass gas if they thought it would help the president heal the economy. And now, this crowd of Tea Partying Republicans, and I use Tea Party loosely, it's more of the Alice in Wonder variety rather than the Sam Adams variety. These Tea Partying Republicans, like Governor LePage, must now fall back to Mitt Romney. Having contorted himself into a pretzel to appease his party's radical right, he now tells us his private sector experience at Bain Capital was all about job creation. And he also points to his public sector experience over in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts as a sterling example of job creation. But let's look at the facts, shall we? At Bain Capital, the mission there was to return profits as quickly as possible to a very narrow group, very narrow few, rather than to create jobs long-term for the many. Now, often how they do this, often they drive up debt on a newly acquired and troubled company, forcing that newly acquired company to pay back in huge dividends to the investors. And then the investors would walk away with a big, quick return and leave behind a trail of lost jobs and economic heartache for many. Now, there's nothing illegal about that. This is a free market system. There are shipbuilders and there are shipwreckers. There are those who manufacture autos and there are those who scrap autos. But even his colleagues at Bain Capital pointed out, our mission, quote, was wealth creation, not job creation. They're different things. Now, the second false claim of job creation comes from his experience as a one-term governor in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And get this, in better economic times than what we've had to face these last few years, under Mitt Romney's governance, Massachusetts ranked 47th out of 50 states in its rate of job creation. 47th out of 50 states. Where did it rank? 47! That's right. 47 out of 50 states. And of the jobs, the few jobs that were created during that time, 6 times as many were actually created in the public sector than were created in the private sector. What's more, in a relatively short period of one-term Governor Romney, he drove up debt on the backs of the people of Massachusetts so that it was the highest per capita debt of any state in the Union. Now you contrast that with the record of our president, who last year led our nation in creating more jobs than were created in all 8 years of George W. Bush. We can move forward or we can move back. I say we move forward with Barack Obama. But you know, or you would not be here on this weekend and working through the weekend. You know that the better future that we seek is not inevitable. It is a choice, and there is a big choice coming. And right now there's a struggle, and it's a struggle that's going on all across our country between two very different visions of the future our children should share. We see it playing out in state houses across our country. We see it playing out right here in Maine. You see people like Congressman Michael Michoud, people like Congresswoman Shelley Pingree, people like Barack Obama, Democratic governors, Democratic mayors, Democratic Party activists and citizens. We believe in an America that is united by our belief in the dignity of every individual. And we see an America that is still moving forward. We see an America that is still growing in every way, including in our own understanding of one another, our own respect for one another. An America that is creating jobs, that is expanding opportunity, an America that is once again strengthening and growing the ranks of an ever more inclusive and upwardly mobile middle class. An America with greater economic security and greater freedoms for many. Our vision, like our parents' and grandparents' vision, is of an America whose best days are still ahead of us. That's our vision. And what is theirs? What is theirs? Their vision is not a vision that keeps faith with the hard work and the sacrifice of our parents or grandparents. It is not a vision that is loyal to the hope we share of a better life for all of America's children. It is instead the vision of an America that can no longer afford to grow its middle class or send its children to college or send its children to the doctor. An America where jobs and opportunities are shrinking, where wealth must be concentrated. An America where women's rights are being rolled back, where workers' rights are being rolled back, where even voting rights are being rolled back. An America whose best days are behind her. An America where we let our grandparents go homeless or allow our babies to drink from bottles which are contaminated by chemicals. And sadly, here in Maryland, and in Maine rather, you know better than most that elections do in fact have consequences. You know better than most what happens when Tea Party and Republicans capture governor's offices. You know better than most why all of us are needed and why we must replace Governor LePage with a Democratic governor in 2014. The tough things that we need to do as people of a state, as Americans, are not things we can accomplish with division, with belittling one another, with heaping disrespect on others. It's things we have to do together. Because our parents and our grandparents, they didn't leave to us a car. They left us a country. It is not some old thing to be traded in when the engine knocks or the carburetor fails to operate properly. She is a living thing, something to be treasured, loved, strengthened, built up. And it's not about what other countries are doing to us. It's what we need to do for ourselves. And so as we search in this election for the good intentions of our neighbors, for common ground and for the way forward, perhaps we should ask one another, without any anger, without any meanness, without any fear, how much less do you think would be good for our country? How much less education would be good for our children? How many fewer college degrees would make us more competitive? How much less research and development should we be doing for our nation's new economy or for the challenges we face on a finite planet? How many hungry American children can we no longer afford to feed? Conclusion. Conclusion. To create jobs, a modern economy requires modern investments. And yes, some of these investments are public investments. Investments by all of us for the benefit of all of us. Investments we can only make together, educating, innovating, rebuilding. And that's not a Democratic or Republican truth. That's an economic truth. That's an historic truth. It's an American truth. And it was true for our parents. It was true for our grandparents. It is the truth that has built our country, and it is the truth that will rebuild an economy to last. The United States of America is the greatest job-generating, opportunity-expanding entity ever created in the history of civilization. So let us not be the first generation of Americans who have to look our children in the eye and tell them that they will enjoy a lesser quality of life with fewer opportunities or fewer freedoms. For there is a powerfully strong thread that unites your work here in Maine. It is the work that unites our work in Maryland and unites the work of the people of our country. And it is the incredibly strong thread of human dignity. The dignity of work, the dignity of a job, the dignity of every child's home, the dignity of every individual. And the better and stronger America we seek is not behind us. It is ahead of us, like the dawn's early light. It is forward, not back. Thank you very, very much.